So this is the meeting of the Natural Resource Inventory and Mapping Committee. It is Monday, October 23rd. This is a special meeting, and welcome.
I do have this.
Whoa. No signal.
Momentarily. Right here. Sandy, I got it. That's right here. Hold on. Check the cable. There.
All right, I want
Maybe you have to log in again.
No, there we are.
Oh, there we are.
I'm just going to say no. We're not going to switch to the display.
Thank you.
Right?
Right.
Because that's what got us in it last time. Okay. No. There we go.
So we are a bit late starting. Sorry about that. I don't see any public that's online or here. So let's switch to our agenda, which is to talk about landowner contacts and review the mapping. I didn't bring my list of, but I can get it, I guess.
I also can have it here.
Is that the same list that we're all working on the same one? I
All
assume?
right. The Google Doc,
Yep.
Google Sheet.
Okay, why don't you tell me the names, Penny, and we'll see where we're at.
Okay. Find that.
Oh, okay.
Let's see.
Oh,
One second.
all over the map.
That would be about right for this meeting, yeah.
Okay, so we have, do you want to know the names of the yes and no's? Sandy, is that?
Yeah, just go down through the names and we'll.
Okay. The Walter Frayville, perhaps, is a no.
Okay,
Robert Hill is yours, and there's no comment here.
I've left a message. That's a
Laura Glenn is a yes, but before January 1st.
okay.
I also thought, Cindy, you could even give access to Arrowwood of the sheet if you wanted to.
Yeah, I
And
was
then they
thinking that we could do that.
And then they could see the qualifications, like one has to be before January, one has to be after December, you know.
Plus they'd have the address.
That's right, and the
Yeah.
phone numbers. Right, so Jonathan Fuller is you and doesn't have a comment on it.
Yeah, I haven't done that. I have to visit him.
Ann Lindy and Nathan Goldman is a yes. No qualifications on it. It looks like they might be interested in joining. Karen, Sandy Murphy doesn't have anything on it.
Right, we've been playing phone tag, so
Okay.
I'm gonna continue the phone tag. She has a lot of questions she wants to ask me.
Oh,
So,
really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So, I mean, it's just, I haven't
Spoken to her.
spoken to her. I got a positive response. I don't,
Well, yes, sometimes those questions are a little tricky though, I
I
found.
know.
Nikita Salmon is you, Sandy.
Yeah, I still haven't
And
done that.
do you know who she is?
Nikita. Isn't Nikita a male?
It is, yeah.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was a she. Okay,
I know who the family is and my
Okay.
sister knows them, so I haven't gotten
Okay.
in touch yet.
Stan and Susan Sanger on Repa Road as a yes, but they would like to arrange to accompany them. Betsy Walkerman is a yes, but she needs lots of advance notice because she would like to accompany. Andy Butler and Robin Armstrong up on Sam Ward Road are a yes, but they would like to accompany. It's actually Meg who's answering for them, and she wants to be the accompanying. And then there's Judy Boardman
She's there.
and Jim. Is it Jim Laporte? Jim and Kelly Laporte is a yes.
Yep. Just,
And they want to know when the
just
person's
let
there.
them
And where do they live?
know. Our son, where the sugar house is in the pond. It's the Burgess Sugar House
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I know it.
on the right, and they own down to New Road, all those wetlands.
It seems like they are looking really interested in that band of, actually, it's almost, I looked at the map, it's almost a straight area from where that bee farm is on Route 15. where
The hills.
The hills. It sort of goes like this and comes across, and it's really a swath, it seems to me.
Mhm.
And all that, because they're looking for that crossing.
That's what occurred to me
Yeah.
also,
Yeah.
yeah, when you
Looking for
look
what
at all
crossing
the
there?
addresses.
Well, they're basically, they're looking for the way across Route 15, then across Tupper, and what they're doing is they go down to
Oh.
Blakely, Upper English Settlement
Yeah,
Road,
where Judy is.
and then they kind of cut over a little bit to then hit, I think
Sandy
Sandy
somewhere
Murphy,
there.
yeah, and then Sandy and actually kind of go over this way because that's where what's her
So the Fullers are in here
Yeah.
someplace in Crane Brook.
But isn't Laura Glenn Sorkin up in this area?
well,
right
yeah,
there, maybe?
that may be, but that this is sort of
The
seeing
swath, I see.
the swath, and probably that is an area too that they're
Mm.
Yeah, when you look at
Yeah.
Mm.
the possibilities, I
Yeah.
think they really are
Connectivity.
looking for that western
Hmm.
connect, which I think I recall Yen saying that was the important one for,
That's one we don't have very
For
well
us.
established.
yeah,
We don't support it that much.
yeah.
Well, we don't support it with regulating, so it's not,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. It is interesting though, that swath. And then I thought, well, even if some of the landowners in that swath say no, I don't think it's a problem because you can always pick up, I mean, a corridor is huge, but you can sort of pick up the tracks, kind of. Yeah.
Mhm.
I thought it was interesting to talk to the landowners and
Yeah.
hear some of the reasons they did. They just about the Frabels, I don't know quite how to say it, just said no, and they didn't communicate why. Those are the folks who live in Colorado.
Oh,
They just didn't want anybody on their land.
oh,
They didn't give me any excuses. But two of the homeowners, interestingly, one said yes, but I always think this is sort of my side of town situation, that it's more of a property rights thing. They said yes, they were happy to have the information documented, but they really didn't necessarily hope that it became a regulation. They don't want the town to tell them what to do with their land. So they're a little concerned about
Sure.
it becoming a regulation, but they had an interesting story to tell that when zoning changed, their road went from 10 acre to 3 acre zoning. And they said they didn't know about it. And they were very upset with the town that they didn't know about it. And I said, well, there were informational meetings and this sort of thing. But they had an interesting comment that they felt that something as basic as that it would affect their land personally, it should have gone out as letters to people who had their zoning districts changing, their zoning for their property changing. I thought that was interesting. You could really say, well, any of these zoning changes could affect you, but maybe that's the most basic one that people would have liked to have known that was actually affecting their property. So I thought that was an interesting comment. Another woman said yes, and she said that she'd love all of her natural elements documented, and it's too bad this didn't happen a year or two ago, because in the interim, the town decided to drain a beaver pond on her private property so that it would not affect properties downstream or the road right of way downstream. And she had no idea that was going to happen and really didn't appreciate people. She had beaver, she had wildlife, and she loved having wildlife, and now she has nothing. So I thought that was sort of an interesting view on what
where
happens.
is that? Do you know?
It's up near Sam Ward Road.
Okay. Yeah.
So I know we've had all that problem off of Silly Hill Road there, so maybe some actions were taken, but it was interesting because the natural community was disturbed there. In fact, it was eradicated supposedly there, so that was a big concern of hers. So it was interesting to talk to people. There are
Yeah.
different angles
No, that's
on.
good feedback though, and I
Yeah.
mean, the planning commission or the ZBA or us will help the ZBA
Yeah.
send
right.
out, if anything changes, that information.
Yes.
Yeah, because, yeah,
It is interesting.
that is
Well,
interesting.
I thought about how, we're aware of on the DRB that the zoning on English settlement has changed, going up English settlement into 3 acre, and it used to be
Poker
more
Hill
than that.
Road too,
Well, Poker Hill, I think of Poker Hill, our road is, you're on Poker Hill, right? I think it was a little, well, you're down on the more wild part of Poker Hill, but where I
guess it's
am,
wild.
where I am, it seems like, it's more populated, and it seemed like it would be okay to be 3 acre where I am. But going English settlement, it just seems a little odd. I know it was a historic pattern of development, but that's the history. And now it just seems odd to have, the potential for 3 acre along the road going English settlement, when that probably is also a crossing path for wildlife, or could be. So anyway.
Well, they have to get from Lakey Road
Blakey, yeah,
over to Irish Settlement, and I'm sure
Right.
they're going
that way.
that
yeah.
way, and they want to see where. Huh, interesting. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so that's it.
Is that it for context?
That's it for context.
So a pretty decent amount.
Yeah. And, there may be other large landowners in that corridor that we know of that we could ask, and they could
Mhm.
then.
But Sandy, I wondered if this could go to their attention sooner than later, just because Betsy Walkerman, for instance, said she would like 4 to 6 weeks of warning, for instance.
4 to 6 weeks?
She travels apparently a lot. I think she's a singer and she travels. And she said she would be here for the month of November, so she might not need as much warning, but if it was December or later, she'd have some.
I don't know as they can do that.
Do that?
I mean, they gotta wait for the snow conditions and various things. They aren't gonna know the exact date that they're coming, I don't think.
Well, maybe they might know a part of a month or something, like early in January or something like that she could block out. I don't know.
And she
But-
wants to accompany them, is that it? Or?
She would like to accompany them, yes. Everyone, I think, that I talked to that said yes, really would, except for Laura Sorkin, Laura Glenn Sorkin. She just wants it done before January 1st, right?
Yeah. When did the incident happen with the beavers? And I don't mean to go off topic, but now the town is really working with the beaver deceivers,
I know.
the deceiver approach.
That's an amazing idea.
Yeah.
I know. So I think it was a year ago, she might have said. I don't know. I was totally unaware of it, and it was pretty alarming to me to think that somebody didn't even know the town was, or maybe I mistook her. Maybe I don't know. But it sounded to me like she didn't know the town was going up there and going to do this. I don't know if it's sort of an eminent domain kind of thing
Well, I
where you
guess
have to grab
Probably if
things.
it's in the town right away. It's causing road issues.
And that's also
Is it-
where the
Is
house.
it though, Ryan? This is kind
I
of
don't know.
back. I
I'm
think
just,
this is sort of, to me, it looked like looking at the map that it was, I think it's, where's Silly Hill? It's Sam Ward. Oh, Silly
Silly
Hill.
We've been up there, Penny, and that's where the people built the barn in the town right of way, and
You mean the house that got washed? Oh, yeah, right.
the
Right,
house
exactly.
a house
Right.
above the house.
We can
So-
look at the wetland map.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And this is Sam Ward right here?
Mhm.
Okay, so I think it's this guy right here. So maybe, but I don't think her property is up against this road. I think it's inland. I think it's like right about here.
Mhm.
Maybe that's
Right, and
state
you
Fish
can
and
see the
Wildlife.
stream right there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I think they did something to divert this or remove this or fill this in somehow.
Look at these old field. Red maple seepage, yeah, I know that one. Yeah. Huh. Okay, so I'll continue to finish my list, and as well as, I guess you just have Sandy Murphy, right?
And you don't have a problem with access to it. You can get access to that spreadsheet, right?
I don't remember. You can
Okay.
send me the link again.
Okay, I'll
I'm
do that.
not sure I do.
Well, I don't have access to the comments unless you put them in today.
No, they've been in there for a long time.
Then
that's
I don't
perfect.
have that link then. I just went to
Okay.
the old spreadsheet that listed the names and. I didn't-
Oh, this is a Google Doc or
Oh,
Google,
oh.
it's a live thing.
Okay, I didn't, all right.
I'll send that to you right
Okay,
now.
yeah, thank you.
Let's see, what is today, Monday? How about if we say by next Monday, we'll try to get as much as we can and send them the status for whatever we have. And that way it'll be before November. And if they are planning to do anything in the fall, my guess is they wouldn't want to be out during deer hunting and doing that. But
No.
it's just my hunch.
Did you think?
And Sandy, I believe because we're all editors on this, I believe that you can give permission, anyone can give permission to anyone else to you
So
see this spreadsheet.
could
I
we
believe.
give it to Arrowwood then? To Michael?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
All
Let
right.
me make sure all the permissions are here and all of that, yeah. Because Ryan, you accessed it directly, right?
Yes, and I
Okay.
made comments, yeah.
Right, so there we're all editors, but it's restricted to people who have, and I think, all right, copy the link.
So the visits, I'm trying to remember, they said they wanted to do general, like, sort of field mapping verification visits, but they're also going to be doing, like, driving roads, looking for wildlife. So are they doing both those things with their field visits, like wildlife and?
Based on when they're going to do it and the landowners that they provided, they mentioned they probably would only be here 1 or 2 days. And my guess is that they're going to try to cover that whole corridor when they come, which I would imagine would be snow on. So I'm not sure how much they can verify some of the other things unless they've like said, okay, we're going to look at this vernal pool on the way or whatever. Because a lot of that you would want to be like doing it now rather than when there's snow.
For some reason, I got the
Right.
sense that that's what they wanted to do, but I must have misunderstood.
I think there are some road trips also, things you can just see without landowner permission and that kind of thing.
Survey,
Yeah.
Cindy, I think you told us that when you had spoken to them originally, that they had said they might want to start in September, which
I know.
made sense.
Right.
But then when I got a hold of them, they said, waiting for snow cover, which I think would cover up what you want to see, but.
Well, no, they need that to see the tracks of the critters.
Right, but I also thought maybe they were, mapping wetlands or, looking at that sort of thing, not just animals.
And they may have
that's kind
done
of
some of that,
maybe
the
already.
roadside stuff, they just do anytime. I think when Michael and what's the other person's name? He was the wildlife guy. When they got together and really looked at what land they wanted to visit, that's when I think they honed in on, okay, the most important thing is looking at these corridors, and so therefore we want it mostly snow on. That's my thinking, but we can have another conversation with them too.
What I was surprised about though, is why maybe it's always a big no, but if the corridor is where we on Beartown Road think it is, it does go into the range and they don't really want to go into the range to look.
But that's already been done.
Has it been done? Is that, they are, Michael, what's his name? O'Hara, is that?
Yeah, he's my coworker.
He's an environmental person, yeah. Has that been done? Have you done that with them or?
We do
Yeah.
environmental, wildlife studies out there,
Yeah,
Certainly,
so-
there's piles of them. We've done through the years, so.
But there is the whole state forest and and there's oodles of data there. All right, any other comments on the landowner part of it? We'll keep going with that. So the other thing that I thought we could start doing is to really look at the maps and think about what we would want to tell the public and what any recommendations we might have for the Planning Commission or Conservation Commission related to the maps, especially because these probably aren't going to change a lot. What we'll probably get is another one that has more of the wildlife on it. And it may merge into one final map that has everything. But these are basically where we're going with them.
And the report that comes out
No.
of this project, will they make recommendations, or is they like, this is what you have?
Yeah, I'm hoping that they will.
Yeah.
I think in the fact that, especially with the forest blocks, they've identified each one and have written a little bit about their value. I think that's in their way providing us with the background. Now you have to decide which ones are significant and how you want to manage them in the future.
Right.
What the easiest place to start is. Somehow the wetlands seems easiest to me.
We'll have to have a refresh on what the colors mean, but
Anything yellow is beaver. Those are the big ones. And then
there are agricultural wetlands, which would be something like this, sort of Chamberlain's. Is that where they are? No, the Chamberlain's is here, right? So this is more.
in between English settlement and
What's that little road there?
Is that the Blueberry Road?
No,
no.
that would be over here.
is this where Tom Niles lives? Is that what you mean?
Where are we going? This is down the road. Oh, isn't that where does Andy live? Karen, is that off of this road or off of that road? Oh, is that where,
oh no, this is
That's
Maple,
Maple Ridge.
oh,
Oh,
I
okay,
think this
then
is
this is-
Andy's road.
is that
right
Chamberlain's
there.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, and so the waterfall, northern hardwood seepage is what that is, that area.
And isn't this Karen, isn't this the water that runs through, what's the name of that road there? This is Piney
Piney
Grove
Grove
is off of this area.
and
and
English
isn't-
settlement.
Isn't that the water that the neighbors would say it was a farmer's ditch originally? Somebody said it was a farmer's ditch, and now it's sort of like a wetland that goes through there and goes through Scott Tobin's area. And
Okay, Boardman used to say people would take a boat and go down the ditch.
really,
Yeah,
funny.
that's what he claimed.
When I was doing this farm video this summer,
I want to look at that.
we did Chamberlain's, and they took us up here on their ATV, and there's a small waterfall up there.
Really?
Really?
How
Yeah,
cool is that?
I'd never noticed that.
Hmm.
And we also went up in here. It's just wonderful property. The vistas are incredible. While we were there, they just drive across the stream, and you can see how the river has been changing. There's some sandbars and various things, which leads me to one of the things in our town plan was to look more about vegetating riparian areas. And I think at some point, it would be good to have some expertise about, okay, where should we be improving the riparian vegetation, or, sort of assessing that. And one of the, we have this old geomorphic study that was done, it was in 2004, 2005, of all the streams in Underhill. But it's really old, and I'm sure a lot of them have changed. I'm going to advocate that we have that redone, but it'll take a grant to make that happen. But if they do that, the kind of things that they talked about were, where do they see that work is needed to improve riparian buffer areas?
I am taking that, what is it, leadership in something, Karen, you've probably taken that, Jens Hilke's course. And they have a story map of a river called, I think, Wild River off of Route 15 in Wolcott. And they've just removed, ANR owns the land, the state owns the land, and so ANR helped facilitate removing the bridge that goes over part of this river. It's right off of Route 15. This river goes under Route 15, and there's a little bridge that connects two roads that easily can be connected another way, then go back to Route 15 and the like. But the point of the story was that rivers back in the day, when they needed power, were straightened, and now, so they were artificially straightened, and it cut some really deep ravines that didn't really want to be there, and it reduced the floodplain areas that some rivers naturally need. And so they removed that bridge, and now the water has actually taken a different course and created different floodplains. So they were talking about the repair and restoration now that they've done that. So I'd be curious too to know how many of our rivers were straightened or how many are impeded by, I know our wetlands is impeded by a lot of culverts and the like, but I wonder if somebody also with some expertise can comment on that too, whether it ends up being a healthy route for our rivers or streams.
That is one of the things that a geomorphic assessment does. They kind of take a view of all of the rivers and look where they're vegetated or not, look where they change from big to small, therefore the velocity increases and the damage they could do increases, and all those sort of things. So it's a really valuable thing to have updated, I think. Anyways, that's that would be maybe one recommendation we could make.
What is the sort of purpley color? I guess that's called purple. What does that mean?
Hemlock balsam fir.
Hemlock, balsam fir, black ash, seepage swamp.
Is that same thing right there? It's the same color, right?
Brighter. Could be in this alder swamp.
No, I guess it has to be the conifers, because it's conifers across from the whole area.
So the other thing we were hoping to provide to Arrowwood is where we think there are things they haven't mapped. So for example, up near my house, they don't have anything in here, yet it's there's larch and an alder swamp right in there, but it's forested, which must make it a lot harder for them to.
They must need permission from that landowner.
Well, it's not my land, it's my neighbor's land, but yeah. That's interesting. What's this color in northern hardwood? Seepage?
What color?
They have that. Right
Blue?
there. Huh. And then right next to it is Old field. And these old fields, they're in the wetland category, so they must
Huh.
decide that they're open, but they're wet.
That's the case usually.
So this is Page Road and a lot of old meadows up there. And what's the yellow?
This is interesting for DRB, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yes. Oh, I love
Oh,
that.
this is the, yeah, so this is an interesting wetland. The road goes right through it. You know, there's culverts and everything.
Mhm.
You know, it's obviously, it could be bigger, right? And there's, you know, probably a house here and a house here and a house
I
here.
remember someone came to the DRB and said, he was from that end of Poker Hill Road, and he said that he had relocated some beavers that were on his property because his property was filling up like a wetland, and he removed them, and it became like a stream, a river through his property. So I think he sort of felt like he made a mistake then doing that, but he was hoping to subdivide, and he had changed the whole flow of water on his.
So he was telling you why?
And I think it was this area.
Mm.
You know, actually, that could be alder right in there. But the beavers now go up about here. They have a whole network holding back those streams.
So that should potentially be larger, you think?
Oh, I would say they've built a series of dams up the brook.
I think I'll get a pencil and we can mark some areas to have them consider.
So Sandy, how old is this?
It's wonderful.
Is this a recent?
Okay, these are from Arrowwood.
Yeah.
Ryan took their GIS layers and created these so we
okay.
could actually physically.
Thank goodness for Ryan and CAD software and large color plotters.
Oh, wow, yes.
Did the town print them out or did?
Yeah, I didn't realize they had one right here.
Oh, yeah.
Brad did that. So this is one area.
They're going to have a field. This is Sam Ward, right? They're going to have a
Yeah.
field day with here. Because I've cross country skied up there with Betsy and in the conifer woods. And it is really wet. It's.
Yeah, Meg was talking about how she'd appreciate them mapping that area because I think it's the town says there are deer yards there, and she doesn't think there are, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know what you would call that other than, they don't really have like a large swamp, do they? No. Maybe it's an older swamp.
Spruce fir tamarack might be the closest thing, but
Were there other areas that you had in mind?
Tell me what the green is. What's that
like
mean?
a lighter green,
Lighter green, yeah.
floodplain forest.
Yeah, it is a
Possibly.
floodplain. That's the old Butler Road. And it is.
Oh, Ryan, could you make this into a PDF? And can we look
It is
at that?
yeah, it is a PDF.
Can
You
I?
already have these.
I do.
You don't have them this large.
Oh, I do.
Oh,
Do I have them as a PDF somewhere? Okay.
Do you?
do you?
They included them in the report.
Oh, right.
Oh, so it's in the report. Okay. These layers, it looks like this.
Yeah, I kind of
Okay.
recreated this from what they had.
Well, I
Okay.
can also,
And
you can send them
these are
yours.
PDFs. We just printed out. So
Yeah.
I
Oh,
can
they have
send
the
these
report.
along,
I can look. I can just look in the report.
It's hard to, when you see this, translating it into what you see when you're driving by it or walking. You know what I mean? Like, how big is it really?
And how
Yeah.
much? I mean, what are what is the importance or the boundaries of this? So, for instance, where I live, which is right Poker Hill, I live right here, and there are some little wetlands and vernal pools back in here, and then there's what I call the swamp, because I'm from the south. It's called the swamp. And all of this area right here is very, very wet and rocky descending into this, but I don't quite understand the difference between things. Is that something that needs to be pointed out, or that's irrelevant? Below it is the swamp, and so it doesn't matter going uphill from it that it's rocky and wet and trees, keep falling over and dying. Is that important to them? So I'm across from Blakey, so it must be right here.
So they have this all mapped as what?
Northern hardwood forest.
Hemlock,
Yeah.
Northern, yeah.
Is
Is
that
it?
right, Ryan?
Is it hardwood? Is it hemlock?
Yeah. It's hemlock and maple
Yeah.
up in there, and swamp maples. And it's a mix.
One of the things that earlier when I was talking with Brad, he was talking about how we almost need to take all of the hydric soils and have them have those layers identified as
Oh, interesting.
wetlands or wet, because they have the potential to be.
And I wonder if they could be put on something like this, but as a hatch, so that you don't have to disrupt the colors. If it could be a background hatch or something. But also,
Maybe I can find that layer. The state probably has it.
Also, what is the, I guess, I don't know that I'm asking the right question, but what is the significance of this forest? Would it be significant going forward? Are we wanting to have the hydric layer on so that for possible land regulations in the future, that's a wet area? Or are we trying to identify specific things for animal habitat, or why do we need each one of these? Which ones are important to them that we should say, oh, you better not miss behind Penny Miller's house, there's this great, or is that irrelevant to anything that's happening?
Well, there's about 10 questions there. I'd start with the natural system myself and say, okay, we'd like to continue to have these in the future. So what is it we need to do to make sure that they're healthy and that they continue in some manner, knowing that, stream areas evolve and, the course may change, but do we have in place the right mechanisms? For example, we have buffer regulations. The state has some, the town has some. They regulate named streams, wetlands, vernal pools. But I'm not sure that all of these things have any rules associated with them.
And they don't necessarily now, but we may decide in the future, right?
That is part of the question, yeah.
Yeah, I think some of these things would not, based on class, like typically wetland buffers and regulations are based on class 1, 2, or 3 wetlands. Class 1 obviously being the most, which is probably all this stuff is class 1 wetland. And then, but a lot of these like wet fields would potentially be a class 3 maybe, depending on plant species that are in them. And may trigger.
This is 2.
That's class 2. Okay.
Because it's not Lake Champlain, which is our only class 1 or something
Just
like
as an
that.
aside,
Yeah.
we had a tour with
Tina Heath
from the state, and she said it is class 2. She said there was Lewis Creek, I forget which other wetland. The town people actually worked to create a class 1, which has more protection.
they agreed to be more restrictive on that.
Anyways, I'm sorry I interrupted.
No, that's fine. Yeah. So I think that's, I mean, these are certainly important, and we can identify that some of these might be more important, more rare, based on state classifications. But I think currently the town regulations only go as far as deep as like, it's a class 2 wetland. Can't develop that, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Although we're starting to see the engineers including the type of soil with the last one at Bunker Hill that you weren't at.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah, he did. And even with the Butler discussion of throwing up the road or not, that soil that is almost in Cambridge is really hybrid soil. I mean, it's got the kind of plants and all of that that sort of was part of the, I think, the conversation of, yeah, let's just throw it up. It's never going to be a road, a road.
Right, it's not suitable for road.
Yeah. So that is starting.
But I guess that's what could come out of this too. We do have these, state listed, whatever, classified wetlands we might want to consider that are important. But I think none of that's been established yet.
I guess the more information we have to then decide, and I think it probably would not be that the four of us decide and then recommend to the townspeople. I think we would need experts to come in and help us and give us their recommendations, right?
Right,
And
and
that was part of our whole original, the way we started this thing was we were going to do a forum, basically like where everyone comes in and it's like, this is what I feel is important, in my neighborhood or or where I walk or where I hike. Like we were going to have these sort of circles that people would draw based on their feelings, like
their values.
And experiences in the field, right?
And so that was an exercise we were going to do with the ends and establish these, I forget what the outcome he comes up with. They're like a community values mapping.
Yes.
That's right. Right.
And then that would tie in with a lot of this stuff. And then we could, if I have these basic kind of like a heat map where it'd be like, everyone thinks that this is important or not.
Right. And that's when we got to work on how we talk to people about
That
it.
is definitely that way.
So, I think after this process, we still should have that, go through that process.
Yeah.
And that will inform us to be like, this is the outcome of what the natural resources committee came up with. And then
What does that?
they can use it as a
Right.
tool for the planning commissioner.
Yeah.
So Sandy, where is this Proctor, where the Proctor Legal Lab is here? So where is the infernal?
The pool that we
What did
looked
you call that
at,
again, Ryan? You said community
Values
mapping.
mapping.
I think it was right in here, right? Because we went out, it was sort of right on the curve.
Jens has kind of done that with a
It
lot of
might
towns that have
be-
gone through this process.
So he can-
look at the
He can help
blow
to
it
Yeah,
up. It
guide
might
that
actually be
presentation that
there.
comes in with.
facilitate that.
Yeah, and then
Okay.
there's
It's a
like
little
an
green
open
speck.
forum.
A little greeny speck.
I think that was kind of like just coming out of COVID, so we were like trying to figure out how to do it,
Right.
whether we do it outside or do it. But I think at this point we can kind of like do it the way that
Mhm.
he feels is best,
What I like is that we still will have Arrowwood involved in July, maybe, where they can really talk about the importance to certain species, which I don't know much about. You look at these different natural communities and they mean something to me, but they may mean something very different to other people depending on what their experiences are. Oh, I always go there when I want to go deer hunting or
Right.
rabbit hunting, or,
Right.
whatever.
And of course, my worry always will be, I'm sure I'm going to be the corner of the table that always says, yeah, and a lot of people are going to say, why would I want to have anyone restrict my land?
Right.
You know, that's,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so why do you think it's important on when you walk on my land, you're pointing out something on my
Right.
land?
But that's why it has to be messaged the right way.
Exactly. It
Positive
does.
way.
It does.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think would be important to, although this isn't the topic for tonight, is that we look at other towns that have done this. And I had downloaded a lot of, I can't find them. I'm such an organized person that I over-organize. I can't find where I put things. But I had downloaded a lot of Arrowwood's final reports to towns. And I had noticed with some of them, it looked to me like the town had taken it further, and there had been some policy results from that. In other towns, that's all that was done, and nothing was ever done with it again. So I'd sort of like to know why, and when towns did get from here to there, how they did it, and who got from here to there, and what is the there, you know, what sort of policies came out of it, and how people agreed on it. So I'm happy.
I can tell you just briefly, we did have conversations. I can't remember. You must have been on the calls with Jericho, Richmond. There was a 4-town project that was done, and Jericho acted on the results. Richmond did not, and part of it was that you know, the select board or you know, whatever didn't want to touch it, kind of thing, you know? So it really requires champions that will continue to push it forward, I think.
Yes.
You know?
And like Sandy was talking about, Tina Heath was telling us about wherever this wetlands was in southern or eastern Vermont, that they decided as a community to have more protections for it rather than a 50-foot setback. There was a 100-foot setback, and also some other restrictions going from a class 2 to they made it a class 1 basically. I can't remember how many years it was, like 3 or 5 years to get everybody to agree to do it.
What occurs to me, just so we keep this in our mind, is we don't really have to regulate things entirely. For example, if we find, oh, this type of wetland is really important, we can identify the landowners who have that and help them with some management guidelines or recommendations that will help value that without saying, oh, you can't do anything here. And at least at that point, people have information and can implement it without feeling like somebody's telling them what to do.
I think that's a good point in terms of resilience in particular. I mean, especially what we're facing with a probably changing climate, a wetter climate, and maybe,
I know, Karen, it does seem like, I mean, look at this guy that I'm so proud of and love so much.
Yes.
Look at that guy, how important he is on the landscape that
we call it the creek.
This swamp. And wouldn't it be wonderful if we're able to maintain its health? In fact, Tina Heath was saying, for instance, we don't even know how healthy it is, that if people wanted to pursue it, maybe they do, maybe they don't, we could have take a water sample test at the beginning and at the end of it, or whichever way the water flows, I can't remember which way it flows, and see how healthy is it and what is the impact of whatever's happening along its way, things like that. So we could help homeowners with, or maybe there would be grants to help them do something, do the beaver deceiver or, you know, on their properties.
Yeah, because there were, like 34 different landowners that own property along here. Brad was telling me that the water flow, starting somewhere in here, flows this way or this way. Yeah, I was like, never realized that.
Yes. I didn't realize. Well, how does it flow this way?
These go into the Lamoille, don't they?
Yeah.
I think these
do.
The Browns River goes into the Lamoille. Right, I always think they go like down that way, but
they do go that way and then
they come back. Yeah.
But what is the?
There's a height of land in there. Is it Otter Creek Road or Warner Creek? Maybe?
Warner, yeah. Oh, Warner Creek.
Warner Creek, all that subdivision.
Okay, so sorry to get us off on that.
Winter Creek, yeah.
Some of the values of these guides is they get into all kinds of strategies for conservation, here's some things you can do. This is the mapping of natural communities where they, if there's some, here's the grassland communities. If this is your conservation goal, here's some non-regulatory strategies, some regulatory
interesting.
strategies. And it just helps you think about the possibilities, which I find very helpful. That is online also. Okay, what else do we want to try to tackle here tonight?
I want to just look at the forest box for a second. Can we do that?
Yeah, let's.
Without being a little bit off course to do that. Oh,
I just wanted to start this
yeah,
process where we can actually hands-on and, what do we know about, well, that's a bad example, but this whole huge area here, our.
Look at that. It's all
Isn't it
basically
amazing?
forest block, except for where we have our houses, right, because they're not part of the forest.
But how do we decide if something's an important forest block or not? I mean,
Isn't Arrowwood going to help us with that? They're going to say this is deer habitat or this is moose habitat or.
If you read through their report, they go through each of these forest blocks and they say, I can't remember what they say, what they tell you about what's in it and kind of what's
Potential wildlife
Right.
that likes that kind of habitat.
I don't know if they say it's necessarily important, but what I couldn't figure out was the shading. I tried to figure that out. And there was no reference to what the shaded numbers meant. So I was going to ask him about that in the report. It's one of the things that, and some were, I think it doesn't quite show up on this, but slightly more shaded and then.
So maybe that was their idea of telling us what is valuable.
Fairleigh did, I don't know if you've heard about what Fairleigh did. I think I heard about it in a podcast. They did something interesting this year with their regulations last year that if you were able to subdivide up in a forest block, in a high forest block, you could sell your rights to a developer in the town center. You could sell the subdivision rights to someone else, so it could be developed at maybe twice or three times the density in the town center. They put that into their zoning rights.
Oh my.
wait, I don't understand.
Like up on Mountain Road, if
Trading
you were able,
development credits, basically.
that's it. Like if you had 30 acres and it was 10-acre zoning up there, that you could, at a great profit, sell your 3-lot subdivision as, say, a 9-lot subdivision to someone who's developing in the Underhill Center instead, and give up your rights to subdivide up in the so it's something
Right,
like
yeah.
that. We're taking it literally.
So it doesn't
But it
end
was-
up being subdivided
Right,
up there,
right.
but
So
down.
it's incentivizes those people to sell in a more concentrated area. Like they can make more money doing that. I think it was
That would be
Fairleigh
an
that did that.
interesting thing as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the rest of this?
A land swap is what they call it, I think.
I didn't read about that.
I'll forward this to you. This was a year and a half ago. I'll forward it to you. I heard this somewhere on a podcast and checked it out.
Yeah, see, this is shaded just every other one, which
Maybe that's all. It just showed up weird on my. For some
maybe.
reason. Here it didn't, obviously didn't. Like these two are together. Odd.
I remember looking at these maps though on my computer. It was hard for me to distinguish some of the different colors.
Yes, it was for me
I mean,
too.
like just tonight, the purple versus.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it shows up different on different monitors too. But you would think when you print it out, you could, it would be consistent when you print it out.
The gray rows are entirely outside of the town. Yeah, I was wondering about
got it.
some of these, like 6, I mean, they included them even though they're
Right.
really
Okay.
not in Underhill.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Mm.
Well, let's see what they say. Total of 24 forest blocks, at least 20 acres in size were mapped, with an additional 10 entirely outside of the town boundary. Okay, that's why there's 30. But within 1 kilometer of the study area. These forest blocks represent contiguous forest land separated by human development, such as roads, houses, villages, ag, non-forest uses. They range in size from 20 acres to 1,700 acres. Shrublands and early successional forests within there are considered part of the forest block. Larger forest blocks often contain larger populations and a greater diversity of species than do smaller ones. The largest forest blocks are also the most important refugia and breeding habitats for those species of wildlife most negatively affected by the presence of humans, such as bear, bobcats, and fisher. So, those are like, those are our critical ones.
Those are critical, and it would be.
That one.
Mhm.
And then
Yeah,
the
which is
protected ones.
interesting because it's very
It's a
close
little
to the
island.
village,
Yeah.
but it's, there's a
then-
lot going on there.
Yeah, English settlements.
And then the smaller ones are supposed to be the communicators between the large ones, potentially, especially if you have a way to communicate. I mean, I was just learning that last week. I forget the name of them, the smaller ones are you need all of them.
Yes, you need all of them. So Mansfield State Forest along the east is by far the greatest contributor to contiguous deep forest habitat. Encompasses the 17,000 acres extending from Stowe, Cambridge, Jericho, and Bolton. Forest Block 20 also covers over the larger elevation ones. So Forest Block 23, there is a mid to large size forest block over 1,900 acres, which includes Macomber Mountain and is located between Pleasant Valley Irish Settlement. While it's important to wildlife habitat in and of itself, it's also likely to play an important role in the westward dispersal of wide-ranging wildlife
Right.
to and from Forest Block 20. 31, that's this one, at over 7,000 acres, is centrally located in Underhill. Yep. This large block reaches 2,000 feet in elevation at the summit of Flynn Hill and is interspersed with smaller hills and plateaus. This forest block is no doubt home to bear, moose, fisher, as well as deer, fox, coyotes. Because it is bound on both sides by roads, it offers significant wildlife viewing opportunities as many people drive by.
But also, even though this is 31 is smaller than 20, I'm guessing this is more private. This is privately owned, right? And some of this is state owned, 20 is state owned, right? So this is maybe smaller, but it's all private property too, right?
Yeah, right. Many of the smaller forest blocks, especially in more populated south areas such as 10, 13.
The small one right here.
Oh, wow. 13, 15, 16, and 18. May also be important places where residents Those are the ones for viewing. Okay. Forest Block 24, which includes McLean Hill, borders the town of Westford and Essex and it's over 2,500 acres. When considering contiguous forested areas beyond study area for this project, this forest block extends to an area 4 to 5 times that in size. Forest Block 24 is large enough to provide habitat for Underhill's wildest species. Yeah, so that one's another.
They're saying
This one, this is-
continues
Yeah,
What is this,
at 4 to 5
Westford?
times.
right,
Yeah.
right, Westford. Mhm.
So that's, yeah,
Oh,
working together.
this isn't Underhill though, right? This is
This is
Underhill?
Westford.
Yeah.
Westford,
I mean,
okay.
but it's all part
Yeah.
of this.
God willing, it stays part of that, right?
The remaining forest blocks in Underhill, while generally smaller than those mentioned, are home to wildlife that are familiar to Underhill residents: deer, fox, gray fox, coyotes, squirrels, chipmunks, raccoons, etc.
Skunks.
All of those in the smaller forests. The valley bottoms along the north-south roads separate those major forest blocks, but also host large networks of wetland habitats. And these make up the edge of the forest blocks and are a draw for many wildlife species, including those that are more typically associated with the deep protected forest areas in the interior forest blocks. So they come down to those.
The battery's running low. Oh,
Oh, maybe it's not
plugged in or?
plugged into the,
I probably
Oh, that's fine, isn't it? Wait, maybe that's not, oh, hold on.
maybe
That's
they
the
didn't give
owl.
us the.
That's
give
the
us
owl.
cord.
This has no cord on it. No, sorry, power plug not in. Well, there you have it. We're going to lose our meeting.
Probably is better to stop the recording before it runs out of battery. Huh?
okay, so hypothetically,
So should we stop the recording or end the
Yes.
meeting or stop the recording? I'll just
Recording.
hit